The president continuing to do battle to fulfill his promise on the wall. He came out today from his meeting at the White House with GOP and Democrat leaders to say in part that successes now make the whole impeachment argument, he would say, a difficult one.
It's very hard to impeach somebody who's done a great job. That's number one. And we even talked about that today. I said, why don't you use this for impeachment? And Nancy said, we're not looking to impeach you. I said, that's good, Nancy, that's good. But you know what? You don't impeach people when they're doing a good job.
So more on that in a moment. But while the shutdown discussions appear to be at an impasse for now, the president was also asked about a new member of Congress who does want him out. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib said this on her first day.
People love you, and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there and we're going to impeach them.
Lovely, right? So similar sentiment, different language, though. We heard from the now new chair of the powerful House Intel Committee, Adam Schiff.
I presume it ends with Donald Trump being voted out of office. But Bob Mueller will have a lot to say about that.
So, and it's not going to happen soon, it doesn't seem, because today a grand jury that has already been impaneled by Bob Mueller for 18 months will now be extended, and we believe that extension is going to be for another 6 months. Here now on Manners and the showdown that is underway on a number of fronts. Former Arkansas governor and Fox News contributor Mike Huckabee, and former CIA officer and Democrat Brian Dean Wright, and former candidate for chairperson of the DNC and Fox News contributor Jimmy Green. Welcome, all of you. We had a lot in there. The economy is doing very well. Obviously, the jobs number was extremely strong. Then you've got that juxtaposed to this showdown over the shutdown, and then you have this looming investigation that continues to go on. So the question of impeachment against that backdrop, Governor Huckabee, let me start with you, was greeted with some pretty strong language by one of the newest members of Congress. Let's start there.
Well, let's be fair. Not all the Democrats are that vicious. They don't use that kind of language, and I think it would be unfair to paint all the Democrats with a broad brush. But it's disturbing that someone would say that. It's profane, it's vulgar, it's unnecessary, and frankly, it's nonsense. First of all, a lot of Americans don't seem to understand, and I don't guess she does either, that impeachment isn't removal from office. And as long as the Republicans have 53 members in the Senate, it would take all of the Democrats and 20 Republicans to get to a supermajority in order to remove the president. So this talk about impeachment is utter nonsense. I only, quite frankly, would hope that they would pursue it and push it and go all the way with it, because I think it would be the best way Donald Trump would be reelected and the Republicans would get control of the House again back in 2020.
Just one more question on the impeachment front before we move on to the other things. Jammu, let me get you to address it. What would you say to her about that comment?
So, for full disclosure, I am a Rashida Tlaib fangirl. She was trained by an organization, Vote Run Lead, that I serve as board chair of, and we train women to run as you are. We train them to be unapologetic, and that is what we are seeing from her. As far as impeachment goes, Martha,
what would you say to her about that comment? That's totally separate from what you just said.
To the impeachment process, we are 2 years into this administration, and nearly every entity that President Trump has ever led is under investigation. Can you just back up and answer my question? I'm just curious what you would say to her. You said you're a friend and you support her. Do you support her using that language, which I wouldn't even, characterize on my show, about the President of the United States? Look, I would not have used it, but the reality is, and I think Governor Huckabee probably knows this, and anyone who's ever watched the television show Veep, politicians curse, and they curse all the time. We're just not used to seeing it as so, up close and
not
personal,
generally in front of
but they do.
Cameras and intentionally in front of cameras.
They have sailor mouths, and I think anyone who's worked inside the Beltway understands that. The public just doesn't usually say that. But for impeachment, there is a serious conversation to be had when every entity that this president has led is under investigation, and he has surrounded himself. The administration is filled with family members, associates, advisors who are under investigation for a long list of influence peddling and money laundering, and I mean the list is so long. So if the Founding Fathers put an impeachment clause in the Constitution, is there any other situation that has been more tailor-made to at least
I don't know.
this discussion?
A lot of these accusations that you just mentioned sound pretty familiar from prior administrations, so I don't know. Brian, let me get you to weigh in on here as we sort of look at this whole issue of the wall, the battle over the wall, your thoughts on where we stand with this showdown.
What a mess. Let's start with the immigration piece first. There is nobody in this country who looks at this thoughtfully and says, hey, you know what? We got 3,000 people coming across the border every day. It's not a problem. Of course it's a problem. Democrats are playing games. My party is absolutely on the losing end of this issue. We've handled it ridiculously. Representative Bustos today, in fact, said that she would be open and the party would be open to a partial wall. So let's just dispense with this ridiculousness about the wall and why this government is shut down. And let me address, secondly, this whole garbage of cursing, all right? Where I'm not concerned about a representative cussing. What I'm concerned about is the Democratic Party spending 2 years telling themselves and this country that there is evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia, and there is not. So what else do we expect? We have set the brush fire alive in this country that the president is guilty without evidence. That is the issue that your friend, the colleague that's speaking just before me, is avoiding when you asked her a tough question. There is no evidence. There are allegations. Let's wait until the evidence comes in. But let's not pretend the Democratic Party hasn't been lit on fire by all of these ridiculous allegations that have yet to be proven with one shred of evidence.
Clearly, Martha, you just laid out how the grand jury has been impaneled for an additional 6 months. That would not happen if this process was not moving through a high number of indictments, a high number of guilty pleas. There is progress being made, and to say that this is not an important conversation.
We haven't seen the end of the investigation.
Hold on,
we haven't seen the end of the investigation. When we do, we'll see what's in it. Governor Huckabee, I want to just get one last thought from you on the wall. I thought it was very interesting. You know, Nancy Pelosi is calling the wall immoral, which just leads me to wonder if she would, and I mean this in a serious way, does she believe that we should dismantle the existing parts of the fence and wall that are there now? Are those also immoral because they do attempt to block people from entering the country?
That is the fairest question of all, because if it's immoral, if it's really a moral issue to protect our borders, then we shouldn't have any protection. And the 650 miles that we currently have, the Democrats should introduce legislation that would dismantle it. And we also should call out the Pope for having a wall around the Vatican. We should call out every major institution, including our prisons, for having walls if they're really immoral. I think that's a ridiculous statement, and it's an indefensible one. There's surely a way that we can bring this. I'd love to see us resolve DACA, get the border secure. This ought to be a bipartisan issue. It shouldn't be politicized, and it shouldn't be one of the things that it's thrown in this ridiculous discussion of impeachment, because it's simply not going to happen. And I think American people are looking for people to lead, govern, and resolve issues, not just to stand off in corners and scream at each other.
I think you touched on something that may be the answer that we end up with here, which is a DACA border security trade-off. I think most Americans would be favorable towards that, so hopefully cooler heads can prevail, and we'll see where we go. Thank you all for being here tonight. Good to see you. Have a good weekend.